Okay, Ben Shelton to serve. But it is another match point. Match point number 3, albeit all have come on the Ben serve. Here we go. Shelton returned. Lovely forehand. Slice from Felix. Sits up quite nicely for Ben, but we're still very much into the rally here. Felix now has a semi-chance to attack. Staying on the forehand, but it's difficult to get away from that forehand, Ben's saying to himself. Now it's on a run around forehand for Felix. Ben slices long. Felix Auger-Aliassime wins 7-5 in the third set. Jake is happy with that Felix win. I'm sure Ghosty is not. But it is a win for Felix Auger-Aliassime. Lost the first set 6-4, won the second set 7-6, and wins 7-5 in the third set. A little jig and a little dance from his team. Felix Auger-Aliassime gives himself a shot at qualification. Ben Shelton almost certainly out, having lost today. I think he'd probably have to beat Jannik Sinner in straight sets in the last match and hope that Jannik beats Zverev tonight, probably in straight sets too. And even then, actually, I think he can't qualify, because I think with that result, I think it now means that he's out, because Felix and Zverev, one of those two is going to win that last match, and therefore one of them will have 2 wins. So it is an unassailable lead. So Ben Shelton is out of the tournament and only has pride to play for in his last match with Jannik Sinner. And that could be a dead rubber, by the way, because Jannik may well have qualified as well. They'll probably put that match on first, but, you know, maybe being Jannik Sinner, they might want it on second just because it's Jannik, and maybe tickets at night. Little message perhaps on the camera here from Felix. What are we seeing? Die. I'm not sure what that means. It's obviously Italian rather than French. Maybe I should know. Anyway, looking at some of the stats here, this is for the whole match, of course. Ben Shelton, 26 winners, 30 unforced errors. 30 unforced errors is not too bad in a way, but maybe he'd expect to hit a few more winners against someone who's maybe not the best defender on the tour in terms of Felix. Felix hitting 37 winners to 22 unforced errors. That is a very good ratio of winners to unforced errors for Felix, albeit that I don't think it was the highest quality of match from both players. Looking at some of the serving stats, Ben on second serve, 58%. It's a little bit lower than he'd want. First serves in, by the way, for Felix is very good, 80% first serves in. First serves won, 77%. But I think this is damning for Ben Shelton. On the second serve for Felix Auger-Aliassime, Felix is winning 74% of those second serves. And Felix is not hitting bombs on his second serve. So I think that's very disappointing for Ben on the second serve return. Yeah, do make sure you check out the Tennis Warehouse link, and maybe you can buy some equipment either for yourself or for players if you think that they need it or warrant it. Maybe you think that Felix needs a dampener or Ben needs a new headband. Do check out that link in the description below. And don't forget to use the code TALK10 when you buy your stuff, and you'll get yourself a nice discount, and then you'll be able to buy yourself maybe something as well. Okay, let's have a quick recap on this match. Felix Auger-Aliassime comes out the blocks a little slowly, and it is Ben who gets the early break, and not necessarily the highest of quality of matches, and it is Ben who goes up the break. However, Ben serving for the first set, perhaps a little passive at that, and a little bit underwhelming, and so gets the break back, does Felix. Felix breaks back. We're now on serve, but Felix still, of course, has to serve to stay in the first set, and he doesn't serve to stay in the first set. Ben breaks, wins that first set by 6-4. The second set is nip and tuck. They get to the tie break without any breaks, although it is arguably Felix that's maybe making a slightly bigger impression on the Ben Shelton serve at this point. Although Ben does have a break point at 30-40, at 3-4. And so if he breaks there, he's serving for the match. He doesn't break there. Felix holds. We get to the tie break. Felix goes up in the tiebreak. We're 4-2 at the change of ends. Felix gets a couple of set points at 6-4, blows them, and really gifts Ben away back into that tiebreak. And in fact, Ben was struggling slightly with he did fall over at one point, Ben, and damaged his knee a bit. And that did seem to jar him for a couple of points. However, he recovers, gets to 6-all, saves those set points. However, there's another set point for Felix. That comes and go, and eventually a fourth set point was too many gifts for him to grab, and eventually he does win that second set. We go into the third set. Again, the pattern is that Felix is the one who is threatening the Ben serve. Ben, though, is not making any impression on the Felix Auger-Aliassime serve, and eventually gets broken when he's serving to stay in the match. That is the pattern of play. That is the nature of the match. Not the highest quality of affairs, but it was intriguing and it was interesting. But probably Felix was just the better player, especially on return at points today. But that, as I said during the commentary, wasn't exactly the hardest thing to achieve, to be the better returner today, because I think both were underwhelming in that department. So it is Ben Shelton who bows out of the tournament. And it is Felix Auger-Aliassime who gives himself a shot at qualification, but he's probably going to have to beat Alexander Zverev in the last match. In fact, he's definitely going to have to beat Alexander Zverev in the last match to do so. And he probably also needs Sinner to win tonight. Nevertheless, that's very likely. Felix, basically, I think his head can be clear. He wins his last match, probably qualifies. So it is still in his hand. But Ben bows out of this tournament. As so often is the case, players appearing at this tournament for the first time do find it a little bit difficult. Remember Ben's lack of top 10 wins at Grand Slams, and now he's playing top 10 players day after day after day, and ultimately he's out. Thanks for joining. See you all soon, and you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.